Amid rising tensions with Russia, the western Ukrainian city of Lviv organized military and first aid training for its city council employees. Now, some workers were taken out of City Hall to a snowy firing range where they were instructed in how to fire a rifle. The mayor of Lviv, Andrei Sadofi, said that such training should become routine when the threat of war continues. City authorities also aim to conduct training among school children and university students. The city of Lviv is situated in Ukraine's far west, while Russia has amassed some 100,000 troops at its borders with Ukraine's east, creating fears that Moscow plans to invade its ex-Soviet neighbor. Now, meanwhile, the Kremlin said on Thursday that there was little ground for optimism in resolving the crisis with Ukraine after the U.S. rejected Russia's main demands of barring Ukraine from entering NATO. However, Russia said that dialogue is still possible. Now, tensions have soared in recent weeks as the United States and its NATO allies expressed concern that a buildup of about 100,000 Russian troops near Ukraine signaled that Moscow could plan to invade Ukraine. Russia denies having any such designs and has laid out a series of demands it says will improve security in Europe. But as expected, the U.S. and the West firmly rejected any concessions on Moscow's main points, refusing to permanently ban Ukraine from joining NATO. So the rising tension between Russia and Ukraine and its allies is another big issue, a potentially market-moving issue. Let's continue our dialogue with Professor Ari Kuncoro, the rector of the University of Indonesia. So Professor Ari, could you explain to us how much of an impact could rising tensions between Russia and Ukraine have on global economic recovery, especially if Russia does take some aggressive actions into Ukraine?
Yeah. The first comment. This is more dangerous than interest rate hike by the Fed.
Right.
This is the real one because it will impact the energy price. Now, the price of WTI is around $87 US dollar per barrel, right? So if something bad happens, it will drive the price perhaps to 100 US dollar. That's it. So it is important for both sides to have to maintain the cool heads. Yeah. Why? Because this is the direct conflict between two superpowers, U.S. and Russia. But the good news is that everyone depend on everyone. So Europe, for example, NATO countries, actually depend on the gas supply from the Russian. Sure. So Russia used this as leverage to push the NATO, the Western allies, not to accept Ukraine into the NATO. That is the main point of the Russia. Ukraine is the red line the Western allies should not cross. Why? Because many regarded Ukraine as the cradle of civilization of both Russia and Ukraine. Everyone can join NATO, but not Ukraine, right? But so the Russia actually demand that Ukraine should not be allowed to enter NATO. But President Biden rejected that demand. Why? Because President Biden, the U.S., they don't want to be seen as a weak, right? But this is the game, right? By saying that I refuse to say that Ukraine cannot be admitted to NATO, but at the same time, to be admitted into the treaty, military treaty like NATO, there should be invitation. It's impossible without invitation. So this is the U.S. want to maintain status quo without losing face. And at the same time, Russia, they actually put their troops in the border just to show that we have deterrent in case Ukraine actually admitted into the organization. So this is kind of game theory. I think because everyone will get the negative effect if something bad happens, this act like a deterrent. But the danger is that one side may lose its school health, might lose its school, then will provoke the other. Then this is very, very dangerous. So the impact will be not only on the gas price, but also oil price, and then will have ripple effect on another commodity. Right now, it's very simple. Because of the commodity price increase, we have domestic problem, right? Yep. Like problem of the cooking oil, yeah, cooking oil from palm oil, yeah. That tells us that this thing, the impact is unpredictable.
Okay, so
different from the Fed we talked before. Why? Because in the Fed, everyone has anticipated that sometime in the future, the Fed will increase the interest rate. That's predictable. We have theory and we have measures to counter. But this thing is different. This is the real conflict.
Okay. Just very quickly, Professor Ari, I mean, whether it happens or not, that is going to be the deciding moment on, especially the lives of many people, but also the markets as well. So from your knowledge, do you think it's likely that Russia could invade Ukraine? Do you think it could happen?
If that happens, we don't want that to happen, right?
No, we don't want it, but could it happen?
If that happens, then the impact to Indonesia will go through the channel of energy price. Right. Energy price, okay. Right? Not only energy price, also commodity price. On one side, we may benefit from the increase of price of commodity, like palm oil, coal, and others. But at the same time, because we have problem with the domestic processing power because of the COVID, some segment of the society may not afford to buy that commodity at higher price. So they have to be should have subsidy. This will create the burden for our government budget. So on the balance, we cannot predict anything, right? Because I should say, because if we talk about energy price, this thing can have ripple effect almost on everything. That is different from interest rate. Yeah.
Okay.
That's different. Okay. So I think, but the good news, I'm talking about good news. I think the Russian and Ukrainian government hold the ceasefire agreement. I think hopefully they will go back to status quo. Okay, Ukraine, I will not invade you, but you should not join NATO. Okay. In turn, maybe Ukraine will seek some security guarantee from the Russia, and Russia will, okay, I will give you, but I need some kind of saving face measure. I don't know why. For example, Ukraine buy also gas, natural gas from the Russia, something like that. Yeah? Something like that. So I think this solution will have good impact for both sides, but also for the world.
Okay, Professor Ari, unfortunately we've run out of time, but as you said, there is still a potential for ceasefire and peace. Let us all hope for the best. Professor Ari Kuncoro, rector of University of Indonesia, it's such a pleasure to have you on the show. Hope we'll have you again. Thank you, Professor.